has a birthday.
What do you mean what's wrong with that?
Don't take your finger off.
Take my...
We had medical. We stopped an episode, but...
Just going to tell everybody I had a very spooky Halloween. It fucking sucked. So much ass.
Hey, we don't have to go in depth. You don't have to tell people you got it from sucking ass.
I'm not telling anyone anything. I'm just more like bitching into the universe right now.
Yeah.
Like,
I can see the bags under your eyes that have been there for like 2 weeks.
The thing is
That's advanced baggage.
It's more like, my approach to Halloween nowadays is like I really don't give a shit and I don't want anything to do with it. And I feel like since I've set the bar so low, then the universe is like, well, we have to disappoint him further. So
damn it, where can we go from here?
So exactly.
His shitty living condition, his shitty job, his shitty car. Damn it, where do we go from here?
How can we make this still shitty? Oh, he's comfortable.
Do something quick.
Hang on, make it shittier. Like, so from now on, I'm just gonna have to set the bar higher on holidays just to be sure that like it'll be like a normal letdown. Like, my costume sucked or the party was kind of lame and awkward. Instead of like, we're paying for hospital thing now. So, anywho.
Let's see, I can segue that. Much like Mary Flannery O'Connor, who was diagnosed with lupus at like early 20s and told that she would have like 5 years to live. How's that?
That's really bad, man.
So, in our last episode, we talked a bit about Mary Flannery O'Connor, a big proponent of the Southern Gothic genre. And from here, in her, she's had tons of schooling at the Iowa Writers Workshop. She's gone to that fucking Yadow, that school up in New York. She's had some of the greatest training anyone that is trying to be a writer really could get. And then she's diagnosed with lupus, has to go move in with her mother, Regina, on Andalusia farm with her 100 peacocks and pea chickens, and just do nothing but go to church and write. And her first book, Wise Blood, it was a mishmash. People were not quite sure what to think about it, but now with her short story collection called A Good Man is Hard to Find and Other Stories coming out.
That was the bit with the gorilla suit murderer guy, right?
Yeah.
Good shit. All right.
Yeah. Why couldn't Halloween be more like that? We've got the Easter Bunny and Santa Claus for Christmas. We need something like the Halloween gorilla. Something terrifying. He'll stab you to death.
Fuck Nightmare Before Christmas. Halloween gorilla.
But, so our focus today is actually going to be the title story of this collection, her 1955 collection, A Good Man is Hard to Find. And like I mentioned before, just as a recap, while she did initially publish this story in a multi-author collection from Avon Publications called Modern Writing 1 4 years earlier, no one had ever heard about it. No one goes out and picks up, like, they do have those collections that are like, oh, the greatest American writings from 1930. And it's like, no. So she did publish that, but once she actually publishes it on its own, this is what's really going to propel her into a bit of stardom. And her diagnosis with lupus is probably a big reason why this story is so fucking dark. So, without further ado, here's A Good Man is Hard to Find. The story begins with Bailey, a man destined to take his family on vacation on a 3-day journey from Georgia to Florida, despite his mother's constant arguing about their destination. You see, while Bailey has moved mountains to get this whole trip underway for him and his family, and I do mean the whole family, him, his mother, his wife, his young son and daughter, and their newborn baby, Granny doesn't want to go to Florida. And she's doing whatever she can to get Bailey to take them to East Tennessee instead. She's got friends in Tennessee that'd make sure they, or at least she, would have a good time. She's even using scare tactics, saying there's an escaped convict last seen in Florida. But there's always an escaped convict in Florida, so who cares?
Can confirm.
Are you one of them?
No. Don't look at me like that.
Well, Bailey is undeterred. They're going to Florida, whether she likes it or not. The next morning, the day of their trip, Grandma packs her old cat into a basket and puts them at her feet in the back seat. Her son Bailey wouldn't approve, but the cat's old. She's afraid it'll die while they're gone. And of course, the whole trip, Grandma will not shut the fuck up. She tries engaging with the kids, but they find her just as annoying as Bailey does. And she does the whole kids these days spiel the entire way, reminiscing about the old days. Oh, she's also dressed in her Sunday best in case they get into a car accident and everyone dies. So at least the paramedics will know she was a lady. This family takes a pit stop on their journey to a diner where the grandmother and the owner, Sammy, are from the same generation, so they just create a fucking echo chamber of, well, back in the day, you used to be able to leave your door unlocked. Well, not anymore. And you head into Florida? Why would you go to Florida? Don't you know there's a killer on the loose?
No, I empathize with this situation. I mean, as someone who doesn't fucking stand how to talk to boomers at all, it must be, a breath of fresh air to be able to speak to someone after so long not being in contact with anyone who understands how the world works.
It's got to be just a breath of fresh air where it's like, finally, I can stop trying to change my ways. And they're bitching. Yeah, they're just bitching back and forth about like Florida. Well, why would you go to Florida? There's a killer on the loose. Calls himself the Misfit. What kind of name is that anyway? Back in my day, serial killers just went by their regular ass name. And the grandma just takes all this with a told you so demeanor. That whole thing of like looking over your glasses and head tilted kind of thing, like, mm-hmm.
Yeah, that dumbass fucking, yeah.
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 And Sammy, the owner, he pretty much only speaks in old soliloquies the entire time, like, quote, people are certainly not nice like they used to be, and a good man is hard to find. Once they're back on the road, Grandma gets bored, so she starts spinning a yarn about how there's an old abandoned house near these woods that some say has a secret panel that reveals a treasure trove of silver. And of course, this gets the kids all excited, like, can we go, Dad, please? Dad, please? And Bailey's just like, no. But Grandma says, oh, come now, Bailey. It takes 20 minutes to get there and back tops. So Bailey just says, fuck it, fine. But this is our only detour.
Oh.
So Grandma leads Bailey down a dirt path. But
is there a serial killer dressed in a gorilla suit at the end of the dirt path? Because that would be really great.
Emery.
That kind of fucking follow-up.
But a little while going down this path.
No, he's from Salem. No suit, just a knife.
Grandma thinks to herself, oh shit, that house I was thinking of was in Tennessee, not Georgia. She knows Bailey is going to be pissed when he eventually finds out she wasted everybody's time. So she nervously kicks her legs, accidentally kicking the basket her cat is in. The cat freaks out, jumps onto Bailey's shoulder, and in his panic, Bailey drives the car into a fucking ditch, which flips the car in one full rotation.
Wow, that's... Okay. I don't know whether I'm more amazed that the cat kept its cool, and I was picturing a carrier. I didn't understand it was just a basket.
It was a basket. It's
just
a little...
basket. I mean,
yeah, it's like,
cool with
it's like a picnic basket. No, he didn't know. Nobody knew. Just the grandma.
Okay.
Yeah, there's a lot of trust issues here.
A lot of luck as well.
Yeah. Now, miraculously, especially in a car from like the 50s, like...
Yeah. With a big family, too.
Yeah.
So it might be one of those ones that they stop making where, like, they have the extra seats that are, like, on the backs of the back seats where you're just looking backwards and getting sick.
Yeah. The cars that they stopped making because they were like, turns out when you do a full fucking rotation, everybody dies.
I mean, at least with those ones with the smaller seats on the backs of the back seats, the baby on board thing wasn't necessary. They'd be able to see that immediately looking to the back of the wreckage, so... My bad.
Yeah, we always just called it the cauldron because once you crash, there's no more actual discernible parts of the body. It's just kind of a soup. That's just perfectly bucketed in there, Now, miraculously, no one's hurt, save for Bailey's wife, who got thrown from the car with a broken shoulder. Everyone else is fine. So, I mean, that's also a thing for back then. Nobody really wore their seatbelts.
I don't know. I still, I recently left a job where I worked with somebody who, when they were sitting in the middle of the truck, they refused to put on the waist belt thing because they said that it would that if we crashed, then they would cut them in half.
It's really weird to think about, like, the generational gap. It's a dramatic change.
No, this wasn't a fellow millennial.
But here's the thing: he probably learned it from his parents because my mom she remembers when the law came into place and she did not wear her seatbelt. That's not why she's dead. But
I was like, all right, well, you're probably just going to get launched through the fucking windshield, which, by
Yeah.
the way, like, if there's people that drive around replacing them with adhesive, how strong do you think that's attached? You really don't think you're going to gain enough fucking momentum there to just fucking blast through that cocksucker, not even break
just
it?
ass blasting through the glass.
Yeah, dude.
absolutely. Well, so the family's all fine, and except for the wife, but no one even really acknowledges the wife. Like, the kids think this is the coolest shit ever, but the car is totally fucked. In a rage, Bailey picks up the cat and throws them at a tree. The cat is fine, by the way. It was just a dick move, though.
Yeah, I don't.
Yeah, throw it at the grandma. If you're going to use a projectile, take the baby. Waiting on the side of the road, the family flags down the first car they see, which luckily doesn't take too long to come by. It's a hearse of all things, with 3 guys in it. 2 of the men get out and move towards the car to help push it out of a ditch, while a quieter man with glasses watches next to the hearse.
I mean, it's pretty bad. I guess the only thing worse than that would be like a van with 4 men.
I don't know.
But it's pretty bad.
But the grandma stupidly says to the guy, "You're the misfit. I recognized you at once." And he says, quote, "It would have been better for all of you, lady, if you hadn't recognized me." The 2 men down by the car change demeanor and brandish their pistols, where one grabs Bailey and his son. Bailey cusses at his mother before he and the kid are led into the woods. After a minute, 2 gunshots ring out. Grandma is yelling out, "Bailey boy!" like he's gonna come back, but then the next guy goes, with the wife, daughter, and the baby. The daughter says to the misfit, "I don't want to hold hands with him, he reminds me of a pig." And the 3 convicts get a big laugh out of it. She's just so darn cute. After another minute of being led into the woods, 3 shots ring out. It's only Bailey's mother left. And while all this is going on, she's pleading with the man they called the misfit. At first for all their lives, and then for those who are left, and then for her own. She says, "Please, I know you're a good man." And the misfit says, quote, "No, I ain't a good man, but I ain't the worst in the world neither."
Let's go.
During their conversation, we learn that, according to the misfit at least, he can't remember why he was even imprisoned in the first place, and believes the only sin he ever committed was the original sin at birth, a crime he didn't have a choice in committing. And for all the years he's been imprisoned, he's going to make up for all the lost crime while he's out. He says there ain't no purpose to life but meanness. The grandmother tries to reach out for the misfit, touching his shoulder, and in Christian solidarity says, "Why, you're one of my babies. You're one of my own children." At her touch, the misfit recoils in disgust and puts 3 rounds through her heart.
All right.
I thought you were laughing. I was like, that's...
No, it's she's like a security laugh.
Okay.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, you said you didn't like anti-jokes. The misfit says that she would have been a good woman, if only there had been somebody there to shoot her every minute of her life. After killing the grandmother, the misfit picks up the cat, who'd been rubbing lovingly up against his leg, the sole survivor of this tale. As the men head back to the hearse, one of the men says, "Some fun!" The misfit scolds him, saying, "Shut up, Bobby Lee. It's no real pleasure in life." Now, of course, this story was very shocking when it first came out. It was the fucking 50s. One could say it was one of the more sadistic tales ever written in the 20th century up to this point. Maybe only second to The Lottery by Shirley Jackson, which came out in 1948. But even with its obvious themes of violence, A Good Man is Hard to Find also very quickly got recognized by critics. This was the pinnacle of Southern Gothic literature up until To Kill a Mockingbird claimed the #1 spot 7 years later in 1960. A Good Man is Hard to Find and Other Stories was an immediate success. Gene Kelly even adapted one of the stories, The Life You Save May Be Your Own, into a TV movie which was broadcasted February 1st, 1957 on the Schlitz Playhouse of Stars. Schlitz. It's like a Milwaukee beer.
You don't think I fucking know that?
Okay. I was just like, I was just entertained to find out that they had a TV show. That's all.
Do you think that came from anywhere else but the Midwest?
It was a show where they do like 1 hour episodes, and it was sponsored by Schlitz. That's the whole thing behind it. But Flannery was less than thrilled with the resulting film. Quote, "The best I can say for it is that it conceivably could have been worse. conceivably. Now, to pass time on Andalusia Farm, besides the time it took her to read and go to Mass, O'Connor also sent a shitload of letters. Not quite on the scale of H.P. Lovecraft, but still a lot. Anyone that would talk to her was considered a friend for life to help kill the boredom. So, for instance, after the release of A Good Man is Hard to Find and Other Stories in 1955, an Atlanta file clerk named Betty Hester wrote Flannery a fan letter. After that, Betty and she passed almost 300 letters between them from 1955 to 1964. This was mainly because Flannery felt that Betty really understood her work. She understood the symbolism, the motifs. Flannery was so excited about their friendship, she awkwardly tried to convert Betty to Catholicism. Well, Betty gave it a shot, but overall decided it really wasn't for her, which Flannery was really bummed out about, but hey, Betty was a lesbian, so maybe it wasn't the greatest decision. Did you ever have somebody trying to convert you?
I don't think anybody's ever looked at me and thought that was worth their time.
I had a buddy who tried it, and it sucked, man, because he was a good guy to hang out with, but then he'd just be like, it really bums me out that you don't believe in hell. You're
like, man, Jesus.
I know, like it, and it was like, I was just like, buddy, how are, like, and he's, the whole Earth is 6,000 years old type of Christian, and I'm like, man, you're getting a B in biology. How? And he's like, well, I just memorized the lies.
I know how to play the game, baby.
Yeah, basically, it was like, oh, that really bums me out,
Like, yeah, no, with people like that, like, you want to tell them, like, I'm halvesies, like, man, I feel like if you really think I'm going to burn for eternity, you should be trying harder, but you're really annoying, though, so I don't want to tell you that.
Yeah, no,
I really want to just, like, keep you in that space.
Yeah, it pretty much ended with me just being like, please stop trying. It's not going to happen, and you're not the one to do it. And he's like, all right, man, look, if there is a heaven and I get up there, I'm going to put in a good word for you. I'm like, thank you.
That's... Yeah, because you, random jack-off, is going to fucking have some kind of administrative role in this.
Yeah, God's just going to be like, Billy? Me, I've been waiting for you forever.
Well, why would you be able to put in a word? Isn't there, like, part of this that it's like a fucking design or some shit? Like, I don't
because
know.
The Bible never elaborates, and the best that we got was Dante, and even he made it boring. So, no.
It's the shittiest book club ever.
But what all this correspondence between Flannery O'Connor and Betty did give Flannery was a friend to bounce ideas off of for her second novel. Now, she was still writing short stories during her stay at Andalusia Farms, but they weren't her main focus. Instead, in 1960, published by Farrar, Straus, and Giroux, Flannery O'Connor released her second and final novel, The Violent Bear It Away.
How old is she at this point?
She's in her mid-20s, I believe, at most.
Damn. Right.
Yeah. I mean, look, it's easy to get a lot done when you're literally confined to a farm.
I don't know. Like, if I was confined to a farm and terminally ill, I mean, I'm not even terminally ill now or confined somewhere. I still just stare at a wall most of the time.
You are kind of terminally ill and confined a little bit, so bad analogy.
I guess.
Mason Tarwater is an old Christian evangelist living in a backwoods cabin out in the middle of nowhere. A long time ago, Mason kidnapped his grandnephew Francis, whom he has been raising out in his cabin to become a New Age prophet for most of his 14 years.
Man, we've come a long way since the backwards chicken. You know? What a fucking arc.
Well, according to her, that was the greatest point in her life, too. She was just
fucking
like,
Christ. No. You told me to listen back to it to like try to stay up to date, and I was like, okay, I hate the sound of my voice, but I'll do it for you, sweet cakes.
Liar.
Okay, well, I got through half of it anyway, and like, and when we got to that point, I was like, oh, she was being sarcastic, you know, because then after that she had like an academic career, and that must have just been kind of a jab at the people that were shitty to her when she was a kid, you know. But actually now with this in context, I'm like, no, I don't think she was kidding.
I don't know how painful lupus actually is. I don't know what it really confines you to do, but I mean, like, she's clearly got a problem with violence and really believing in God.
Okay, like hey man, like regardless of whether or not she's in physical fucking pain, knowing that you're dying and getting your life cut off has got to be like, has got to have a huge emotion.
Oh, for sure, for sure.
Like,
and for her, she, instead of, as far as fight or flight went, she went with all fight. Everyone's dying. Fuck everyone. Fuck the world.
Jesus, Murph.
Well, Mason Tarwater has been raising his grandnephew Francis for two main purposes. To one day save Francis's cousin named Bishop from eternal damnation, and to give Mason a good Christian burial when he's dead so he may rise again on Judgment Day. But when the day comes and Mason Tarwater passes away, as Francis is digging his granduncle's grave, he finally hears it. What his Uncle Mason said would come to him someday. The voice. But it's telling him to forget the old man and go get drunk instead.
That's the voice.
That's the voice. I believe you and I have this voice. So he does. Francis gets plastered on good old-fashioned woods hooch, and when he wakes up from his stupor, he decides to give the old man a cremation instead by burning down the fucking cabin. Now, there is one person Francis recalls from his childhood and how to get to his place, his Uncle Raber, father of his cousin Bishop, who he's supposed to save. And once Francis hitches his way to their home, his Uncle Raber is, of course, shocked as hell. Francis has been gone for years, but he's very hospitable to him, welcoming him into his home and letting him share the space with him and his son Bishop, whom Francis finally realizes why he can't be saved himself. He's special needs, and he'd never be able to get himself to a church and get baptized of his own free will, and Francis sees him as less than human. Now, Raybear is excited to introduce Francis back into society, because as much as he's a pain in the ass, Raybear knows that what Francis is going through. Because when he was a kid, Grampy Mason tried to kidnap him as well, but was luckily rescued by his father. Well, Raybear wants to try and quote-unquote socialize Francis. And nothing really works for him. So he thinks maybe he just needs a bit more of a recognizable atmosphere to meditate on instead. So Raybear takes Francis and his son Bishop out to the lakeside farm that Francis was originally from and kidnapped. And it's while Francis is there that he hears it again. The voice. And it's telling Francis, forget baptizing Bishop. Drown him.
I call that the spirit. But to each his own.
The spirit took me. Now, Francis does manage to get Bishop in a boat out on the lake, but he thankfully fights against the voice, successfully baptizing him. And baptizing him. And baptizing him.
I'm doing a great job right now.
Well, Bishop does drown. So Francis...
You're so lucky I'm fighting this. I'm saving your fucking life.
So Francis hurriedly gets back to shore, where his Uncle Raybear is like, what happened to Bishop? Where is he? And Francis just tells him...
I saved him.
He tells him flat out that he's dead. And Raybear faints, not over the loss of his son, but because of the relief he feels losing his son.
Oh, that's okay.
And Francis runs to the woods, trying to get to the one place he knows is safe, back to his granduncle Mason Tarwater's farm. But he can't walk all the way back, so he hitches a ride with a nice guy who seems very welcoming.
Did the spirit tell him he was hitching, or did he actually hitch?
I mean, he did hitch.
Oh, okay, cool.
And this guy, I mean, he doesn't... He's
because if the
cool
spirit
guy.
told him, then some fucked up shit happened. Like,
well...
Or wait, what do we call it? The voice?
The voice?
Yeah,
the spirit?
In fiction, it's the voice. Okay.
Yes. Well, this guy is very welcoming. He doesn't even mind sharing his, under the seat booze with Francis. Keep drinking, Francis. There we go.
Oh, god damn it.
Francis wakes up naked on the side of the road with his clothes beside him. He dresses and sets fire to the surrounding woods. Running from the forest fire he created, he comes to the spot where Mason's cabin once stood. Along comes a man named Buford, a man who saw the smoke from the cabin fire that day and rescued Mason's corpse from the building without Francis seeing him.
How old is this fucking kid?
14.
So, just the visual of like cresting over a hill, seeing a forest fire, and then a naked fucking 14-year-old running away from it. Like,
his clothes were there. He dressed.
I mean, like, I don't know.
But I think running towards the fire, just the fire and a naked boy running, just like, the voice told me. Like,
oh, shit. Like,
Well, after Buford rescued his uncle's corpse, he gave Uncle Mason a good Christian burial. And with this information, Francis realizes that the two main requests his granduncle Mason had in life, to be given a Christian burial and for Bishop to be saved, have both been completed. Francis Tarwater realizes that despite his best wishes, God is with him, and he is a true prophet. Accepting his calling, Francis walks in the direction of the big city to, quote, go warn the children of God in the terrible speed of mercy.
Did he put his clothes on yet?
Long time ago.
All right. I don't know why I'm on this.
No, that's fine. That's honestly, that's the end of the tale itself. It's absolute batshit insane and only like 200 pages, so it's crazy that all that shit happens. But
actually, in hindsight, it makes more sense that he would go help if it was like a 14-year-old. If I saw a grown man running away from a fire naked saying it was the voice, I'd
go back.
I didn't know. There's no context in which I'm going to fuck with this. Absolutely not.
I don't know, in the context of the Eagle Creek fire a few years ago being set by a bunch of 14-year-olds, I'd just be like, what did you do?
You're like, God damn it, kid, come here. Like,
you might be too old for spankings in some people's eyes, but with me,
get the
no,
fuck
sir.
in the truck. God damn it. It's not really your fault. We shouldn't have these firework things around. Fuck.
Do you know how far out of state you had to get back to Eagle Creek? My God. You did this with a malicious purpose.
Out here, no one will hear the fireworks. We'll be free to be as stupid as we fucking want.
The trees will cover the sound.
It'll be great.
Now, unlike Wise Blood, which was reconstructed out of old stories, only the first chapter of The Violent Bear It Away was once a previously published story. And unlike Wise Blood, this novel had instant success. I guess it helped that people knew Flannery O'Connor's name by now, thanks to her short story collection. Well, while Flannery O'Connor had completed many short stories between her first collection and The Violent Bear It Away, she fought her illness just a little longer to get one story in particular completed. She let her publisher know that the story called Revelation must be in her next book. Her second short story collection called Everything That Rises Must Converge. And this is that story, Revelation.
Ooh, we're losing it.
Actually, now that you say it, yeah, they do get a bit.
This fucking search history. How to tell people you're losing your shit without saying exactly that. Like,
this story called Please Help Me is in the hot, crowded waiting room of a doctor's office. Mrs. Turpin waits for her husband's treatment. He was wounded by a kick to the leg from one of their cows, but nothing too serious. Mrs. Turpin has a lot of opinions, mostly about the hierarchy of races, as well as her literal holier-than-thou attitude of her Christianity.
Wait, that's the chick who has awakened, or is she?
What?
Wait, I thought there was like a coma situation from a cow kick.
Oh, no, that's her husband.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. She's just in the waiting room right now, and he just got kicked in the leg, which, I mean, that...
Never mind. Sorry, I'm so lost.
No, that's totally
sir.
fine.
Good sir.
Which, I have you ever been kicked by a fucking farm animal?
No, that's because they're very large, and I have a healthy fear of them.
I had the edge of a fucking hoof graze my leg, and it was fucked up.
Yeah, it's a lot of mass.
It is a lot.
Yeah.
So, I mean, yeah, if you got a full-on kick from a cow, I'm probably sawing off your leg that day. Well, Mrs. Turpin, she really wants to tell people how she, a white Protestant landowner, is better than the other people in the waiting room, but by God, there isn't a natural way for her to segue into the small talk.
That's not how you make friends. It's not.
Oh. What's that? Gospel music playing on the radio?
Everyone in the room is black.
All right, motherfuckers, here we go. She starts with an easy target. Black people. Who apparently, quote, go to New York and marry white folks and improve their color. She moves on.
Hey, I'd like to remind everyone we're going over a work of fiction.
Yeah, also 50s Southern writer. So please
and
hold your reserves.
Please remember the context in which this is. Yeah.
She moves on to the poor white people in the room. As she puts it, white trash are no better than black folk. The only person she can't unfortunately make fun of in the room is a woman who she knows is not only from a good family, but is Christian and, more importantly, richer than her. So she can't make fun of her. But her teenage daughter is still up for grabs.
Oh.
Mary Grace is described as a fat girl blue with acne. She has no social life, as everyone knows, and when Mary Grace's mother says, well, she's actually doing very well in college, Mrs. Turpin says, oh, you mean that one out in Massachusetts?
I like that Flannery's on her deathbed and her like last fucking writings are just about hating Karens.
Yeah, honestly,
like
that's
like
actually
that shit pissed her off so much that
to be honest, you've got it. That is very much the message she has in a lot of her later writing.
Yeah.
So she points out that the daughter's actually going to school in Massachusetts. Now, what you may know, I don't know, but our audience may not, is that people who may be your grandparents' age in the South, people like Mrs. Turpin, act like the South is God's grace on the world instead of a COVID-ridden mudhole. To move outside your local pig pen is an affront to God, country, and
COVID back
family.
then. They just had like
no, but it is now, and a lot of them still feel that way, where they're like, God will take care of us, and don't you dare move out of this poverty-ridden piece of shit.
Hey, there's plenty of that shit up here. You just got to get out of Portland a little ways. You go into Mac.
Listeners, listen to him speak. The man from the South is here talking about how it's not that different.
No. I'm just letting you know to fucking like. Remember that you go into the rural areas here in Oregon,
for sure.
and it's the same shit.
I'm just saying, this is this specifically like why Mrs. Turpin is pointing out that it's Massachusetts is because you don't leave the South.
No.
You don't go to fucking Dixieland. Do you have anybody who's actually like that in your family? They seem kind of not that.
Nobody I'm related to.
Mm.
That's cool. I'm not related to a lot of people, though. It is probably a dodged bullet, considering the area.
Well, I've had sex with a lot of ladies. None of them related to me. It's a good thing.
This is a big family. Married into this. Thank fucking God.
So this last little comment about her college being way out in Massachusetts is the last straw for Mary Grace, who up until now was just trying to ignore Mrs. Turpin behind her textbook. She throws her book at Mrs. Turpin and beans her right in the fucking forehead. As Mary Grace is being restrained by both the doctor's staff and her own mother, Mary Grace yells out at Mrs. Turpin, quote, "Go back to hell where you came from, you old warthog." Later that day, Mrs. Turpin lies awake in bed with her husband. She thinks, how can I be from hell if I am saved?
Later, the warthog lies in bed thinking, maybe I should return to hell. It'd be a lot funnier if it was just a warthog sitting in a chair with a man who had recently gotten kicked by a cow going,
She gets beaten in the fucking forehead and pig pops out of a dress just like, how dare you?
with a bunch of brown people just looking over like, what the fuck? Might actually be a more apt description of this scenario.
Told you white people are from hell. What more evidence did you need? Well, this must have been her first time being told to shut the fuck up, because Mrs. Turpin takes this really, really hard. She continues her farm work for the day, just hosing down the pigs. And while she starts shouting her breakdown into the woods, just like, fuck it, why, how am I? You can't throw me out. That's subsection A.
Well, hopefully there's some mammal in there that's beneath her so she can get that rock off.
Well, an echo comes back, and she receives a revelation. She...
Okay, boomer!
She has a vision of the great beast Leviathan. Of people...
What the fucking turn? Yeah. God damn! Whoa!
You asked for this! Of people marching on a bridge of light towards heaven, and her being left behind. Quote, "They were marching behind the others with great dignity, accountable as they had always been for good order and common sense and respectable behavior."
Oh, yeah, right. Leviathan's a Christian thing.
Yeah.
I thought we were going into Eldritch territory. Holy shit, this is about to be rad.
A metal artist from Portland just walks out like, hey.
Hi.
I'm
alone. Really high.
I hope you enjoyed Scar-Sided.
Tell my wife I'm sorry.
No, don't stop it. No. They alone were on key.
Okay, possibly editing point there. What's that?
No, it's. Do you think of all people, Leviathan is no? Come on.
I don't think talking shit on
Continuing.
that particular local artist. We're only 35 minutes in.
Yeah, continuing.
This felt like an eternity.
Yet she could see by their shocked and altered faces, even their virtues were being burned away. She lowered hands and gripped the rail of the hog pen, her eyes small but fixed unblinkingly on what lay ahead. In a moment, the vision faded, but she remained where she was. At length, she got down and turned off the faucet and in her slow way of the darkening path to the house. In woods around her, the invisible cricket choruses had struck up, but what she heard were the voices of the souls climbing upward into the starry field and shouting hallelujah.
That's really nice.
It is nice. She is a very good writer. But I guess, so, I mean, it's strange because I know that she wanted to also really fucking, get this in, and she was, hurrying, racing death, quite literally, to try and, get this in. And it makes me wonder how much of her artistic integrity was, squandered by that. But either way, man, she had a natural fucking talent.
I don't know. I feel like I'm not going to be that dick who's like, oh, well, the suffering created good art or anything. But no, she worked well.
By all means, speak as an everyman, which you are on this podcast. So,
no, I just mean that, she did work well under the pressure. So.
Yeah, apparently. I mean, the doctor's giving her a timeline of 5 years. It's like, I have got so much porn to watch.
Holy shit. No, that's speaking as the everyman.
The voice said. Releasing
so porn to watch. Actually, I'm gonna say during quarantine, man, I felt like I got caught up. It was pretty barren, and I was like, "What do I do with my life?" I was like,
all these links are purple.
I was like, I watched everything. It's gone. God damn.
Has this always been a waterbed?
I take not even a single moment to assess what I was doing in my life or anything, or assess whether that was good.
No,
or
I
bad.
could see that as just finally you just look around you and go, oh my god, what have I done?
I think that's the last nut. I don't fucking care. This is the end of the road.
Gonna be a very strange video game from Naughty Dog coming out. The Last Nut. The Last of Nuts.
The Last of Nuts.
Releasing Revelation.
Nice.
Releasing Revelation in time for it to be put into the collection, Everything That Rises Must Converge, was very important for Flannery.
Fucking give me a pause there.
All right. Out. All right,
I got
good.
it out of my system. My bad. That really made me giggle.
Releasing Revelation in time for it to be put into the collection, Everything That Rises Must Converge, was very important for Flannery, so she could get the last word in about how she felt towards her fellow Southerner. Just because you're Christian doesn't mean you don't deserve to go to hell. There are plenty of allusions to Christian tales within this story that, had she just written out her thoughts on the religion one by one, would have taken a lot longer and probably would have risked dying before the ideas were put on paper. It was pretty much her way of saying, look, it's already in this book of the Bible. Go read it and realize you're a fuck up here too. So because of all these mentions, Revelation ends up hearkening back to something Dante would have written, with references on top of references.
She trash talk a bunch of people?
Yeah, basically. I mean, everything had an allusion to basically being a quote from the Bible in some way, just her way of saying it. And it was basically her way of okay, and you hate white trash people as well. The sun and the clock is from Luke 2:12. It was just here's why you're wrong about that. So yeah, it's but I also feel it's important to mention that she saw stories such as Revelation and A Good Man Is Hard to Find as black comedies. So take that as you will. She thought it was funny. She was notified mere days before her death that Revelation had won the O. Henry Award, which she had won twice previously. Once in 1957 for her story Greenleaf, and in 1963, just 2 years prior, for her story Everything That Rises Must Converge, which would of course become the title story of her collection. Although we won't delve into it, I have to mention that the last story she ever wrote was called Judgment Day, and it was poetically a revision of her first story, The Geranium. But rather than the main character reflecting on his homesickness, They battle with the idea of their impending death instead.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I know what this is.
On August 3rd, 1964, Mary Flannery O'Connor succumbed to her final bout with lupus and passed away at Baldwin County Hospital. She was buried at Memory Hill Cemetery at Milledgeville, Georgia. Although diagnosed with her illness at the age of 22 and told she wouldn't live longer than 27, she managed to make it to 39, 12 years longer than expected. For 34 of those years, she lived in the care of her mother, Regina. The literary executor to O'Connor's estate became Robert and Sally Fitzgerald, who gave her a place to stay after her time in Yaddo. Together, they completed editorializing and publishing Everything That Rises Must Converge, released by Farrar, Straus, and Giroux just 5 months after O'Connor's death. And here's the thing. While the stories in A Good Man Is Hard to Find and Wise Blood were a bit angry and violent right after she was diagnosed with lupus, the stories she wrote the closer she got to death, from The Violent Bear It Away to the ones in her last collection, were downright malevolent. It kind of felt to me like she was getting more and more competitive with her faith. In time, all of O'Connor's works were released by Robert Fitzgerald in 1971, again by Farrar, Straus, and Giroux, titled simply The Complete Stories. It won the National Book Award the next year in 1972. After her death, most of Flannery O'Connor's original drafts of her works were donated to her alma mater, the Georgia College and State University. Andalusia Farm became listed on the National Registry of Historic Places in 1980, and in 2017 was donated to Georgia College and State University with plans to restore the property to its former glory. The Flannery O'Connor years, not the plantation years. Her childhood home in Savannah, Georgia, was purchased in 1989 by Armstrong State University President Robert Burnett and professors Hugh Brown and Robert Strozier, turning her home into a museum dedicated to her life. Her mother, Regina, lived until May 8th, 1995 at the age of 99 and was buried between her husband Ed and her daughter. Up until her last years of life, she would give personal tours of Andalusia Farm if you just simply showed up and asked. Now, in recent years, Flannery O'Connor's work has been viewed in less than friendly terms. The question has been raised, was she racist? You see...
I mean, in the context that you have presented this to me, definitely not.
Well, you see, the characters in her stories were oftentimes dropping the N-word like it was charity. One of her more well-known stories is even called The Artificial N-word.
The Artificial N-word?
Yeah. Just a long story short here, it's about like a grandpa and his grandkid. They're like getting lost in the city and they come across one of those lawn gnomes that's like a jockey. It's like a black jockey. And they just kind of go, huh, weird, because most of her stories aren't about anything. So, and then they leave, you know?
I mean, did she have some more like racist ones earlier on and then fucking trail off of that later on in her career? Or?
Well, here's the thing. O'Connor was a very bright person and she knew what she was doing. She was using the racism in her stories the same way she'd use religious themes, right? Like, she wasn't an atheist, but the characters in her stories that were religious without question got punished the harshest. And so did the racists, actually. She also used the N-word as a narrator in her stories, but she would do that based on which character she was narrating for. So, like, you know, not every character was a racist, but the racist ones were for sure gonna use it, you know? However, through her personal letters, we do know that she definitely believed in a more separate but equal approach to things, like we talked about in the episode with Ralph Ellison. And yet, she was a big supporter of both JFK and MLK, the entire civil rights movement, as a matter of fact. But she still wouldn't sit next to black people on the tram. She even signed her last letters.
Okay.
Yeah, I know. Like,
you left out that little detail, conveniently.
No, I didn't. It's here.
Yeah, till the fucking end.
Yeah. Well, so, I mean, that's the thing, though, is like, she wanted what was best for them, but she didn't want to necessarily be next to them, you know, and I think...
No, actually, that's fucking classic.
Mm-hmm.
That's the whole classic I hate the South and their approach to fucking racism thing that you see from everybody up here.
Honestly, I
Like,
feel
yeah,
like
no, we fucking hate that. No, I'm not fucking racist. Do they live anywhere in my neighborhood? And am I forcing them out with the rent prices? Yes, but am I going to approach that? No! No, I don't want to live near them.
let me tell you, I just hate being white. You see, I'm one of the good ones. Yeah, no, I mean,
Lock your doors.
honestly, I mean, so she died at, what did I say, like 39 or something? She died fairly fucking young. And honestly, I think had she lived, she would have lived through the 70s at the very least, had she not gotten lupus.
Yeah.
And I think she probably would have eventually turned around. I've seen it in people alive today where I, like, even in a span of time that I've been around for 30 years, I have heard them say really fucked up shit when I was young. But as the times changed, they were, and those were some of the most resistant people to change as well. And then they end up fine with a lot of shit.
Yeah, I know. And you look at them, you're like, look, I'm not sure whether you actually think that or whether you just don't want everyone to be mad at you for thinking that, but I'm really glad you're shutting the fuck up.
Yeah. No, honestly, I see that as an appropriate change too.
It's like, that's fine, actually.
If your thoughts and feelings die with you, let that be so. That's okay.
Yeah.
You're allowed to be racist up here. Just don't say it out here. And honestly, though, but that's the thing. If she was really into, she was very religious, but at the same time, she was a big proponent for the civil rights movement and everything. I think eventually probably would have gotten along with the times.
I get what you're fucking saying, but at the same time, though, it's like, not wanting to sit. You don't. What the fuck practical goddamn reason with the example you gave me at the beginning? How in the fuck do you convince somebody using just fucking, like, how do you convince somebody differently that thinks they shouldn't sit next to a black person on a bus differently?
Honestly, you can't.
Yeah.
You have to let them live out the experiences themselves.
So actually, no, I don't know if she would have fucking changed.
I don't know either. I like to think she would.
I don't think
because I like
would've.
her stories, but I don't know.
That's nice. That's nice. And you can hang on to that, man. Oh fuck. But no, dude, you can't fucking unteach some weird shit where they don't think they can be next to a black person.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. No, and I got that, but it's like with her, I just feel like she had a step forward more than a lot of people did. She could have totally been for MLK and then gone home that same day and been like that, and just who knows? We don't know. I like to imagine that she would have gotten with the times because she was a smart person and everything, but that doesn't always crack that fucking ceiling, so we just don't know. But she even signed.
I feel like we do, is my point.
Well, I don't know. We do. What about an old Southern woman just screams racist to you? You know what she is? She's an old soul, all right?
I haven't met one... Motherfucker, I have experience in this field. I have not met one old Southern woman that isn't at least a little fucking bit of spice racist.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I'm not arguing that. I'm just saying, just better than what she was doing before, which was not... Like, she was like, segregated buses are absolutely okay, Well,
whoa.
She even signed her last letters to friends while she was in the hospital as Mrs. Turpin, the main character of Revelation. But I think that had more to do with her being unworthy of heaven for other reasons, not necessarily because she was racist. So the short answer to is Flannery O'Connor racist is, yeah, but for a lady growing up in the 30s, 40s, and 50s South, could have been much, much fucking worse. This still led to over 1,000 people signing a petition in 2020 that a dormitory named after her at Loyola University, Maryland, a Jesuit college in Baltimore, remove her name in the stead of Thea Bowman, a black religious scholar. But as it turned out, no one was petitioning to remove her name because of her personal letters, where she did indicate her prejudice, but because of her use of the N-word in her fiction instead. This is sort of equivalent to schools getting rid of To Kill a Mockingbird by Harper Lee because they never actually read the work.
No.
I think so. Well, that was the thing. I looked at some of the shit that they were saying in like the city councils type stuff, and it was all because of like her fiction had this, and this, and she was definitely a separate person from her works of fiction, but also those stories with the racists in it and stuff. Those people all had downfalls and everything. I don't feel like they got it. Was it the right move? Absolutely.
Well, no.
But for the wrong reasons.
And hang on, no. With the information that you have given me about Harper Lee versus the information that you have given me about this woman, I will say that this woman, Flannery O'Connor, is a lot more troublesome in that aspect. Like when we went over
Yeah.
Harper Lee, it was really painted as like the last little bits in the last book that got released, where Atticus is racist, and there was like all this other fucking shit.
That
Like
shit
that was
that
something
wasn't
that
her
happened.
fault. Yeah,
that literally she didn't really have her hands on as much. Like this is her whole entire work, and given that we have details, like I mean, I don't know if fucking Harper, I don't even know if Harper Lee ever rode the goddamn bus. Like,
That's fair.
Like,
I don't know.
Yeah, we don't fucking know that, but knowing that shit,
Right. I'm saying
hung up on the bus thing.
No, I know. But that's the thing. None of these people knew about that. None of them talked about it. That's why I'm saying why it was for the wrong reasons. So it was the right move, but they did it because of her fiction. And her fiction was not representative of who she was at all. As a matter of fact, her personal letters were completely different from what she talked about. Like, she was preaching it and she was not acting it at all.
Okay.
And it was like, it's great if you want to name something after Thea Bowman, but this is specifically the wrong reason. Actually, this is kind of indicative of, the Jade District downtown. So basically, we had Chinatown, but then that became a racist moniker, so they called it Old Town. And then the
Wait, we changed it from Old Town?
Well, it's still Old Town, but nobody lives there anymore. Reason being, because we did have a bunch of Asian people living in Old Town, and you know what they did? They painted the lampposts red to make it seem more Chinese themed, I guess. It drove up the prices and moved everyone out, and now it's a ghost town. So what they did instead was they said, okay, we're relocating you, not like we've done with every other race before.
No, Jordan, the homeless aren't ghosts.
You're right. It is very occupied, but just not on paper. And so they were doing this whole thing with the Jade District, where basically they were like, okay, we've got a new Chinatown, but we're not going to call it that, and we can't call it Old Town because that's now Hoboken. So what are we going to do with this? And somebody I work with, actually, she's a Chinese woman who has, she's cool as fuck. She has always stood up for Asian rights and all this kind of stuff. She's been out there on streets for activism and stuff like that, and she's really cool. She was a part of this committee that was setting up the Jade District, and the entire time that they were talking about, how they're going to set up the streets and everything like that, and how they're going to promote the businesses and everything, or how they're going to do all this other stuff. It was like the last day, and they had so much more to go through, and this was going to be the last day before the Jade District went up. And all that happened was a bunch of white people kept going, calling it the Jade District is a bit racist. And they were like, that's fine, but there's more important shit to go through right now, and we can change the name later. She was like, we didn't get anything done. Nothing of merit, and it's still called the Jade District.
Yeah.
Well, we had to make it about ourselves. I mean, it's a little racist.
Hang on a second. No, I am not center stage currently.
I believe. Well, once it was announced that Loyola University, Maryland was changing the dormitory name due to Flannery O'Connor's works of fiction, tons of letters came flowing in support of her, telling the school that they would be wrong to make the change. Even from Alice Walker, the African-American author behind The Color Purple. But the dean of the college was like, I know, but look how many people care. We're just going to change it. Which I think was probably the right call in that regard. However, as one Jesuit Monsignor who knows Flannery O'Connor's works very well argues, quote, she probably wouldn't have wanted her name on a Catholic college anyway. She hated institutes that didn't allow free thought.
I completely forgot about that.
Yeah, no, she wanted people to question faith, to make sure it was the right decision for you. And I agree. She believed more than anything in thinking for yourself. She didn't like the idea of somebody going to a college that is expressly designed not to challenge your views. But regardless of her work becoming a revisionist hotbed of activity, one can still not deny the absolute impact she had on American literature. And although you can take the time to pick apart the religious themes within her books, you can just as easily have a good time reading the batshit insanity that are the works of Flannery O'Connor. My sources today, and for last episode: The Complete Stories by Flannery O'Connor, Ferrer, Strauss, and Garreau, don't know which printing it is, The Irony of Canceling of Flannery O'Connor, Monsignor Richard Antall, Angelus. It's either Angel US News or AngelusNews.com. Madam O'Connor by Megan Anderson, AssortedRegards.com, and Wikipedia.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What do you want? Why are you looking at me?
What have your people done?
What have my people fucking done? I have no idea what my people done. Jordan.
They don't teach that in schools.
I don't even...
I wasn't regarding the Puerto Rican side. I was talking about the southern side this time.
Also, no idea. No fucking idea. It's all very ambiguous. Half Appalachian Mountain Ape, half Puerto Rican. It's a huge mix. I'm not taking a genetic test. I can't afford it. Okay? Like, I don't know what's going on.
I think it's cheaper to get your mouth swab done for one of those like dog test things. We could put you in there and see what dog breed you are. And be like, look at this Chihuahua half man.
You're Havanese and Border Collie?
Like, this is the ugliest naked pom-pom I've ever seen. Well, you got anything to add?
Oh, that was a good one. I liked it a lot. Well done.
All right, cool.
Hey, everybody.
Well, we got jalapeno poppers.
See you next work.
I
think we're gonna bring Sean.
No, one more. Because we've got the one with next week, and then with Sean.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I know, but that's some goal to look forward to. Like
it is, yeah.
Good old Sean. While our not readers, excuse me, that's dumb, and I'm very drunk. While our listeners are just fucking powering through the desert of our shrill voices, and they let them at least just see an oasis in 2 weeks that is Sean's nice, easy to sleep to voice.
Actually, you know what? Come to think of it, because you were bitching at me about it before.
What was it?
Well, you were talking about like how there were people reaching out to me on the calebcan'tread@gmail.com account, and you got mad because I wasn't responding to them.
Yeah, why didn't you? Oh, well, is this? God damn it! Don't be snarky, you bitch.
No. Hang on. I got a good one on here.
Got a good one? What you got?
Yeah.
Oh, is it hate mail? Do we have hate mail?
Huh?
Oh, that'd be great.
Oh no, God, I wish. So, greetings, my dear. This letter might be a surprise to you, but I believe that you will be honest to fulfill my final wish. I bring peace and love to you. It is by the grace of God. I had no choice than to do what is lawful and right in the sight of God for eternal life, and in the sight of man for witness of God's mercy and glory upon my life. My dear, I send this mail praying it will found you in a good condition of health, since I myself are in a very
the longer this goes, the better the
condition,
punchline must be.
in which I sleep every night without knowing if I may be alive to see the next day. I am Karina Johnson, a widow suffering from long-time illness. I have some funds I inherited from my late husband, the sum of $11 million.
God
My
damn
doctor
it.
told me.
Why are you reading spam mail to me? God damn it. Why didn't you just tell me we had spam mail? Why
I
did you tell me
legitimately got a
someone responded to
Nigerian
us?
prince, though. That I thought was like more of a rumor. or
That's a
anything.
relic, actually. You
Yeah,
can
right?
save that.
Yeah.
It's
I mean,
valuable.
no, it's in my fucking... it's Mr. Yatmir Nuta. But I thank you. Wow. This one's only $10.5 million.
Oh
I'm going
God.
with the cancer patient
Dude,
instead.
can we please dress you like a princess and respond?
I'll suck your fucking dick for $10 million.
Can we amp this up?
If only you went onto our Patreon and gave us $1, I'd blow them. We don't have a Patreon, but someday, line them up. Let's go have jalapeno poppers. I'm hungry.
Other people have to pay for that?